Alright guys, so this video is over endosymbiosis, okay, and this is just the evolution of how organisms or prokaryotes, okay, evolve over millions of years into what we know today as eukaryotes. And as you can see in the picture, there's this ancestral prokaryote or a prokaryotic cell with no nucleus, no nothing, and as time goes by, okay, it becomes what we know today as an animal cell or a eukaryotic cell and a plant cell. Okay, they're both eukaryotic, but that's the idea here, that prokaryotes evolve into what we know as eukaryotes. Mitochondria and chloroplasts are very important for this because they're used for evidence, and we'll talk about that, but that's the idea of endosymbiosis theory, okay? So what is endosymbiosis? Endosymbiosis is just a relationship where one organism lives inside of the other, and you can see it in the drawing down here, okay, where this little green guy is going in here, okay, and eventually it makes it all the way in, right? But the thing about endosymbiosis is that, yes, it's a relationship between these two organisms, but eventually the big thing here is that the two organisms become one organism, okay, and they depend on each other, and then eventually they cannot live outside or one without the other. They have to have both in order to survive. So that's endosymbiosis, okay? Endo means within, okay, and symbiosis means a relationship between two organisms, and that's going to help us remember that this endosymbiosis theory is just stating that shows that there's a relationship where both organisms benefit, and they live within each other and they benefit each other, which is a mutual relationship, which when we did symbiotic relationship, we said that that's a plus or a win-win situation. Okay, so endo within symbiosis is just relationship between two organisms. Okay, now these cells, okay, or scientists believe that a long time ago, okay, two bacteria, which were prokaryotes, we know that now, okay, became what we know today as a eukaryote. The two cells, one cell actually got engulfed by another one, and through millions of years of evolution, it actually became a eukaryotic cell. And the idea is that this animal cell here, or this primitive animal cell, okay, the very first one, okay, started because this structure right here, okay, got engulfed, and it actually became the mitochondria. So it was the one that provided energy for that new or that primitive eukaryotic cell. And here you can see there's a nucleus and there's a mitochondria there. So mitochondria is the first organism or the first organelle that was engulfed by this prokaryote that became a eukaryotic cell. Okay. Now, there's evidence that supports this, okay? And some of the evidence is that mitochondria have their own membrane, just like prokaryotes, okay? So, you can see here, I'll outline it, okay? The mitochondria has this membrane, okay? But it also has this membrane, so it has a double membrane. Okay, and that evidence is used to support that, yeah, this cell was engulfed by another cell. Okay, it has its own DNA. The DNA inside the mitochondria is different than your DNA. So, just like any other cell, they would have their own DNA, right? But when they got engulfed, they kept their own DNA, so it looks different than the DNA that we have. During cell replication, okay, mitochondria divides the same way, okay, the same way that other bacteria divide, which is through binary fission. Okay, so they have a double membrane, they have their own DNA, and they divide through binary fission. Those are three pieces of information that are used to support this theory, and you need to know those. You need to remember that it has a double membrane, it divides through binary fission, and he has his own DNA. Those are the three pieces of evidence that we need to remember about this, okay? Another organelle that actually originated through endosymbiosis, or the scientists believe that originated from this, is the chloroplast, okay? So once the mitochondria was there, you can see it here, that's the primitive eukaryotic cell, right? more mitochondria was going in there, but eventually another type of bacteria got engulfed by this eukaryote, and it was a photosynthetic bacteria. Okay, a bacteria that could actually go through photosynthesis, which eventually, through a lot of years of evolution, became the chloroplast, and these cells became the plant cells of today. Okay, and just like we said earlier, they have a relationship. These two organelles had created a relationship with their host, or the cell that engulfed them, and they depend on each other. So if you take them out of the cell, they're not going to be able to survive on their own, even though they have their own DNA, they're double membrane. They need the host as much as the host needs them. So yeah, they can't survive on their own. Okay, so to summarize endosymbiosis, okay, let's look at this picture. Again, it's just the idea that eukaryotes, and both animal and plant cells, came from a prokaryotic bacteria or a prokaryotic cell. And if you look at the drawing, right, we start here, right, and at this point, the mitochondria got engulfed, for a bacteria that could produce ATP got engulfed, and that's where the animal cells took off. Later on, you see that once that bacteria was in the cell, then another one, a photosynthetic bacteria, got engulfed, and those became the plant cells that we know today, or the photosynthetic eukaryotic organisms. Okay, so again, endosymbiosis is just a theory that explains how eukaryotic cells became or evolved from early prokaryotic cells. Okay, animal cells forming first, or heterotrophic cells forming first, and then photosynthetic cells forming after the mitochondria was already engulfed. Okay, I'm going to have an animation for you online, so make sure you watch that so you can actually see the animation. I don't want to put it in the video because I don't want to make it too long, but make sure you watch that animation. And you can also search for endosymbiosis animations online, and you'll find a lot of information about it. Okay? All right, I hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions.